Hello everyone, welcome to Mr. English channel. I am sure that after listening to several podcasts from this channel, your listening skills will improve. We will tell you the fascinating story of Cinderella in several videos to improve your listening skills. Let's start it. Cinderella, the writer Herbert Henry V, the second episode. Cinderella had heard her father often talk of her godmother and tell who protect children. Her fairies heard that she was one of those good spirits revived, and she wiped away her tears, took Cinderella by the hand, and said, "Now, my dear, go fairy into the garden and fetch me a pumpkin." Cinderella bounded lightly to execute her commands and returned with one of the finest and largest pumpkins she could meet with. It was as big as beer barrel, and Cinderella trundled it into the kitchen, wondering what her godmother would do with it. Her grandmother took the pumpkin and scooped out the inside of it, leaving nothing but rind. She then struck it with her wand, and it instantly became one of the most elegant gilt carriages ever seen. She next sent Cinderella into the pantry for the mouse trap, bidding her bring 6 little mice alive, which she would find in the trap. Cinderella hastened to the pantry and there found the mice as the fairy had said, which she brought to the old lady, who told her to lift up the door of the trap but a little way and very gently, so that only one of the mice might go out at a time, one by one. The old woman touched them with her wand and transformed them into fine prancing dappled grey carriage horses with long manes and tails, which were tied up with light blue ribbons. "Here you have a fairy now, my dear good child," said the coach and horses, "much handsomer than your sister, to say the least of them. But as they have neither a position nor a coachman to take care of them, run quickly to the stable, where the rat trap is placed, and bring it to me." Cinderella was full of joy and didn't lose a moment, and soon with the trap, in which there were 2 fine large rats, returned. These too were touched with a wand, and immediately the one was changed into a smart position, and the other into a jolly looking coachman in full finery. Her godmother then said, "My dear Cinderella, you must go to the garden again before I can complete your equipage. When you get there, keep to the right side and close to the wall you will see the watering pot standing. Look behind it, and there you will find 5, 6 lizards, which you must bring to me immediately." Cinderella hastened to the garden as she was desired, and found the 6 lizards, which she put in her apron, and brought to another touch of the wonderful wand soon converted, fairy them into 6 spruce footmen in dashing liveries, with powdered hair and pigtails, 3-cornered cocked hats, and gold-headed cans, who immediately jumped up behind the carriage as nimbly as if they had been footmen and nothing else all their lives. The coachman and position having likewise taken their places, said to Cinderella, "Well, my dear girl, is not this as fine fairy as an equipage as you could desire to go to the ball with? Tell me now, are you pleased with it?" "Oh, yes, dear grandmother," replied Cinderella, and then, with a good deal of hesitation, added, "But how can I make my appearance among so many finely dressed people in these mean-looking clothes?" "Give yourself no uneasiness about that, my dear. The most laborious part of our task is already accomplished, and it will be hard if I cannot make your dress correspond with your coach and servants." On saying this, the old man, assuming her character of queen, touched Cinderella with a magic wand, and her fairies of the clothes were instantly changed into a most magnificent ball took fairy jewels. the most costly dress ornamented with the from her pocket a beautiful pair of elastic glass slippers, which she caused Cinderella to put on, and then desired her to get into the carriage with all expectation. As the ball had already commenced, two footmen opened the carriage door and assisted the now beautifully dressed Cinderella into it. Her grandmother, before she took leave, strictly charged her on no account whatever to say at the ball after the clock had struck 12, and then added that if she stopped but a single moment beyond that time, her fine coach, horses, coachman, position, and footmen, and fine apparel would all return to their original shapes of pumpkin, mice, rats, lizards, and mean-looking clothes. That's the everything Cinderella promised faithfully to attend to had mentioned, and then, quite overjoyed, gave the fairy direction to the footman, who bawled out in a loud and commanding tone to the coachman to the royal palace. The coachman touched his prancing horses lightly with his whip, and swiftly the carriage started off, and in a short time reached the place. Cinderella's arrival at that place in her elegant gilt carriage, which attracts general notice as it drives up to the marble portico, of which information is communicated to the prince, who hastens to the door and welcomes Cinderella, hands her out of the carriage, and gracefully leads her into the palace, where the nobles welcome her as a prince. The arrival of so splendid an equipage as Cinderella's couldn't fail to extract general notice at the palace gates, and as it drove up to the marble portico, the servants in great numbers came out to see it. Information was quickly taken to the king's son that a beautiful young lady, evidently some princess, was in waiting. His Royal Highness hastened to the door, welcomed Cinderella, and handed her out of the carriage. He then led her gracefully into the ballroom and introduced her to his father, the king. The moment she appeared, all conversation was hushed, the violins ceased playing, and the dancing stopped short. So great was the sensation produced by the stranger's beauty. A confused murmur of admiration fluttered through the crowd, and each was fain to exclaim how surprisingly loving she is. The ladies were all busy examining here the ones her head dress and her clothes in order to get similar very next day. If I needed, they could meet with the stuffs of soft rich patterns and find workwomen clever enough to make them up patterns. What a lovely creature! So fair, so beautiful. What a handsome figure, how elegantly she is dressed! Even the prince's father, old as he was, couldn't but behold her with indifference, but wiped his eyeglass and used it very much, and said very often to the queen that he had never seen so sweet a being. Cinderella is presented by the prince to the king and queen, who welcome her with the honors due to a great princess, and is then led into the royal ballroom. The king's son handed Cinderella to one of the most at the top of the hall, and Dias distinguished seats on the back. She would allow him to hand her some refreshments. Cinderella received them with great grace. When this was over, dancing with her hour, and the prince requested to have the Cinderella smiled consent, and the delighted prince immediately led her out to the head of the dance, just about to commence the eyes of the whole. The company were fixed upon the beautiful pair, the trumps sounded, and the music struck up, and the dance commenced. But if Cinderella's beauty, elegant figure, and the splendor of her dress had before drawn the attention of the whole room, the astonishment at her dancing was still greater. Gracefulness seemed to play in all her emotions. The airy lightness with which she floated along as buoyant as thistle down threw forth a general murmur of admiration. The hall rang with the loudest acclamations of applause, and the company all in one voice pronounced her most elegant creature that had ever been seen. And this was a little girl who had passed a great part of her life in the kitchen, and had always been called a cinder wench. When the dance was ended, a magnificent feast was served up consisting of all delicacies. So much was the young prince engaged with Cinderella that he didn't eat one morsel of the supper. Cinderella drew near her sister and frequently spoke to them. She offered them the delicacies, heart and their gladnesses of which she had received from the prince, but they didn't know she was their sister. See the continuation of this story in the next video. Thank you so much for watching this far into the video. Remember to subscribe to the Mr. English channel and hit the bell icon to be notified when I post new videos.